Today, I am using this very unique neighborhood located in Mexico City as inspiration to take this very boring neighborhood and turn it into a lush pedestrian paradise. Stick around as I build today. I want to share with you guys why I think this neighborhood might be the best walkable neighborhood I've found. Here we are back in Golden Bay. First thing we have to do is build out this entire neighborhood. It's so fun to build out an entire neighborhood just to completely revamp it. I did this with my suburban, where we took that big suburban neighborhood and made it walkable. That was so much fun. I do think this would be really interesting to do with an existing city, so you guys will have to let me know in the comments below if that's something you'd like me to do. I like this layout. It's a little funky. As always, we are going to be doing mixed zoning as we are following the concept of the 15-minute city. The concept of the 15-minute city is making sure that your citizens can walk or bike to anything that they would need within 15 minutes. That would include going to work or going shopping or entertainment, green space, going to the doctor's office, absolutely anything and everything within 15 minutes. All right, here comes one of the most satisfying things in City Skylines, watching everything grow. For those of you who caught my how far will they walk video, where I was just testing how far citizens will actually walk in the game, they will walk much farther than 15 minutes. So as we build out this pedestrian only city using the new Plazas and Promenades DLC, it's going to be interesting to see how many of our citizens actually make use of public transportation. I have trams and buses running throughout this entire area, and so far they are not being used, and that's because the citizens are preferring to walk. I think that as we built out on this peninsula, I'm hoping that they start utilizing the public transport that we have put in for them. And there we go, the neighborhood is complete. Now we have used all pedestrian roads, as this is the 100% pedestrian city we're building. There's lots of pathways, there's public transit, so it's very easy to get around, but it's not very enjoyable. So let's transform this entire neighborhood and create lots of urban green space. As I went about completely changing the look and feel of this entire neighborhood, there were three things that I kept front of mind. The first thing was the size of the green space along the walking paths. One thing I found really interesting in this neighborhood in Mexico City, specifically what's known as Amsterdam Avenue, is the amount of urban green space to walking paths. So it was almost double. So wherever there was a walking path, there seemed to be double the amount of green space on either side. Second thing was creating a canopy. So in this area of Mexico City, when you get down on Google Street View and walk through, it feels like you're in the middle of a forest, and that's because everything is very wild and overgrown, and there is this canopy over everything, providing ample shade. Whether you are walking around or eating at a cafe, there is just this feeling of being in the middle of a forest. The third, and what I think is the most important thing, is the diversity of plants and trees and just overall vegetation in this area of Mexico City. And they really let everything just be wild and grow, and there's very little landscaping, beyond keeping things somewhat tidy, but you can just tell that they have just kind of let nature go and just creating a vast variety of diversity in the vegetation that's there, which I just think is so cool. And so these three things I just kept in mind as I was going through and doing this massive job of landscaping this entire city.
It's time to call it quits. The kitchen tap is broken. Drip, 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 drip. Dirty dishes in the sink. We've been laying here for weeks, weeks, weeks. When No, we just slide. Think it's time to call it quits. Think it's time to call.
Take me back to Mexico, that Cancun sun would turn the sun. Were high on me, wanted to vibe with me. Take me back to Mexico, that Cancun sun would turn the sun. Were high on me, wanted to vibe with me. Take me back to Mexico, that Cancun sun would turn the sun. Were high on me, wanted to vibe with me. Take me back to Mexico, that Cancun sun would turn the sun. You were high on me, wanted to vibe with me.
So for Mexico City in a whole, like neighborhoods like this one that I found just don't exist. That's why I said this is a very special neighborhood in Mexico City. Most of Mexico City doesn't have hardly any green space at all. So as you can imagine, this particular neighborhood that we use for inspiration today is very expensive to live in. It's very popular, and of course, who wouldn't want to live there? You've got all that urban green space, you've got walkability, lots of restaurants and cafes, and then everything else right around there is actually high density apartments that are very expensive. And this is the frustrating thing about walkable city areas in general, is typically they tend to be very expensive to live near, and that's something that just needs to change overall. Like everyone should be able to have access to green space and be able to easily get to where they need to without having to spend an hour in their car every day commuting. That's why it's also interesting, but also frustrating, that this neighborhood in Mexico City was originally designed after a garden city concept. And spoiler alert, when I'm done with the 100% pedestrian city, we are going to be building a garden city on our map, which I'm so excited about. But the original concept of the garden city was to provide an affordable place for people to live that brought in the best of the country and the city life together. So really bring in that urban green space before we even called it that. And so what again is frustrating is that this neighborhood in Mexico City, it was designed for that, to be affordable, and then it was changed over to be a place for, you know, people who could afford to live there. And I think that's the problem with a lot of these very desirable neighborhoods where you're close to the park and you can walk places, is they tend to be so expensive to live in.
I wish you'd stay, but there you go. I have so much I wanna say to you, much I wanna say, but there's no time. We used it all. Still have so much I wanna talk about, but I messed it up and there you go. Oh, 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 oh. There you go, walking out that door. It felt so close. Oh, 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 so close, closer than it felt before. Forgiving me, and I just want you to know I didn't mean it. Baby, I just wanna be with you. I should be with you. There is so much that I would change about the way I treated you. I don't deserve a second chance. I know that I'm way too late, 'cause I messed it up and there you go. Oh, 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 oh. There you go, walking out that door. It felt so close, close, closer than it felt before. And yeah, I know that I always hurt your feelings. Yeah, I know that you'll never be forgiving me, and I just want you to know I didn't mean it. Baby, I just wanna be with you. I should be with you.
I'm going to do the other half of this city off camera, and we'll use a little YouTube magic and come back and walk around our beautiful new neighborhood.
Waking up, feeling the taste of our fight last night. Breaking up, making a mess of an old good life. And now that you're gone, I'm thinking about old times. I've waited so long for this to be moving on, seeing it all in a whole new light. Thinking of reasons to make it all be alright. And now that you're gone, I'm thinking about old times. I've waited so long for this to be
I hope you all have a joyful day, and I'll catch you next time.